From shocking Twitter exchanges with Jim Irsay to a nail-biting trade situation, Jonathan Taylor has been caught up in a drama with the Indianapolis Colts. Let's discuss whether he'll play for the team again or not. Before we start, let's go back in time a bit. In 2021, Jonathan was a key player for the Colts in the NFL. Like, he totally rocked the league by leading in rushing with a whopping 1,800-plus yards. But hold on, let's shift to 2022. And that season, Taylor's playing time got cut short to just 11 out of 17 games due to an ankle injury. Because he was out, Colts' overall performance ended up being not so great at 4-12-1. Now, let's move to the present. Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, made an appearance on the Pat McAfee show and revealed that JT's ankle is all healed up. So, does that mean he's all set to rock the upcoming season? Turns out things might not be as simple as they seem. During the time leading up to this season, Taylor's been talking a lot about wanting a better contract. You see, the running back market is kind of a mess right now. I mean, just look at what happened to Saquon Barkley. To make matters worse, Irsay doesn't want to shell out tons of money on running backs. In fact, he's playing all cool and didn't even want to talk about extending the contract of his star player. Well, that's just the start of the drama. The thing is that Taylor's heading into the final year of his rookie deal that'll pay him $4.3 million this year. So it was only natural for him to hope for an extension before the start of the 2023 season. In fact, he even said in June of 2023 that he wanted to be a Colt for life. Little did he know his hopes would get crushed eventually. As I've mentioned, the running back market is in shambles right now, and the players have been struggling to land lucrative deals. Well, Irsay added fire to that fuel by saying that they need to stop complaining. Oh boy, this man does not hold back. So, he tweeted back in July of 2023 that the players had negotiated a CBA, and the running back needed to learn to deal with those circumstances. Yikes! What's more, he also took a jab at their agents, saying that they're selling bad faith. Now, less than 24 hours after that, there's speculation that the relationship could possibly be repaired. Turns out Taylor's agent, Malachi Kawal, quickly dismissed the idea by simply quoting Jim's tweet with, "I doubt it." Not to mention, he also has a response to Irsay's tweet about bad faith, stating that bad faith was actually not paying your best offensive player. Mic drop. I mean, it's clear that Jonathan's camp wouldn't take Jim's words lightly, but no one had anticipated the situation to turn this drastic. Honestly, when you need to discuss things, talking face-to-face usually helps, but not in this case. Words that the guys had a private meeting with Irsay and things actually got worse. Reportedly, Jim insisted that Taylor would not get a new deal. Since Taylor wouldn't be allowed to get a new deal, he decided to demand a trade. I mean, that's only fair, right? But that didn't sit well with Irsay. First, he made sure he wouldn't trade Taylor. After facing much public scrutiny, the Indianapolis Colts finally agreed to give Jonathan the opportunity to trade. Unfortunately, the deadline has now come to pass, and Taylor couldn't find an acceptable trade. This means he'll have to stick with the Colts roster for now, much against his will. Interesting. With that said, Taylor's been put on the PUP list due to an ankle injury in the training camp, and it seems like he's going to stay there. Due to this, he'll be out for at least the first 4 weeks of the 2023 regular season. But hold on, that doesn't mean he's guaranteed to play for the Colts this season, or that he won't get traded later on. Frankly speaking, the way things are going, I'm not sure we'll ever see JT on the field for the Colts again. The only way that could happen is if Irsay or another team is willing to trade draft picks immediately and give Jonathan the long-term deal he wants. But let me tell you, that is not going to be an easy task. Still, that doesn't mean that the trade can't happen again in the upcoming months. After all, the previous trade deadline wasn't a hard stop for the future deals. I mean, there's nothing stopping an interested team from picking up the phone and making an offer to the Colts for Taylor. Here's the catch though. They just need to know that he won't be available until after week 4 of the regular season. So far, only a few teams have shown interest, with the Miami Dolphins being the most involved in the talks. But now, the next big deadline is October 31st, which is the official NFL trade deadline. The Colts have until then to find a new team for Taylor. He'll have time to be reactivated off PUP and decide where to play or wait a few more weeks. What's more, Taylor and his agent will likely keep pushing for a trade, while the Colts want to see if he can fully recover. Let's be real though, the Colts have the upper hand here because they control Taylor's rights for the next 3 years. Seriously, the outcome is still uncertain, but the recent developments give the Colts and Taylor much needed time to resolve things. Now, let's just assume that they'll patch things up. It'll put Taylor in a spot where he could become a big free agent next spring. Normally, this situation pushes teams to either talk about a contract extension or let the player hit the market. But we aren't talking about any regular running back here. After all, Jonathan has solidified himself as one of the best in the NFL. Now, with free agency comes the franchise tag. It's like the ultimate money saver for the NFL teams. Basically, they calculate the salary using the average top 5 salaries at that position over the past 5 years. And in 2023, for running backs, that number is $10.1 million. Mind you, that's even lower than what kickers and punters get. And you know what's even worse? The price might drop even more in 2024. This makes the franchise tag an even juicier option for the teams that want to keep a top-tier running back for another year without making a long-term commitment. So if Taylor ends up having a solid season, racking up another 1,000-plus yards alongside rookie quarterback Anthony Richardson, the Colts could use the franchise tag on him. This basically means that they can keep him for another season without breaking the bank. As for Taylor, he has 3 options: play under the tag, hold out for better teams, or work out a deal. If he decides to play under the tag, that means he won't be able to get his desired contract, and this would only lead to another potential trade situation in the future. Now, speaking of hold out for better teams, it doesn't sound like a suitable option either. In fact, this is probably the worst possible outcome he could face. Like, history has already shown us that holdouts, especially when it comes to running backs, tend to turn out pretty badly for everyone involved. Let me give you a classic example. Le'Veon Bell. Back in 2018, he decided to hold out from the Pittsburgh Steelers due to some contract issues. But when he finally returned, things took a nosedive. This time he went with the New York Jets in 2019. Before all this, Bell was a superstar. He had been named All-Pro twice and had scored 3 Pro Bowl nods in just 5 seasons. Basically, he was dominating the game. But as a Jet, he wasn't even close to his former self. Yep, he lost the spark so much that by 2022, he had left the league entirely. What's even more interesting is the fact that he had played for a whopping 4 different teams during his career. Now here's the thing, you can't totally rule this out happening to Taylor. As I've mentioned already, other players are taking this route, and honestly, it has not worked out well for them, especially for running backs. Coming back to Bill, he didn't even have an injury like Taylor. In fact, he was coming off an incredible 2017 season where he owned the field for over 1,000 rushing yards and a smashing 11 touchdowns. You see, Jonathan isn't in the best position to pull off a holdout in the long run. It might actually hurt his standing in the NFL even more than it is doing so now. Moving on, let's take a moment to look ahead. Just remember how Taylor was a total game changer for the Colts. Yes, it might feel like ages ago, but you can't deny that he was a force to be reckoned with. And guess what? If he gives his ankle the proper care and rehab it needs, there's a chance he could regain that powerhouse status. Still, his future hangs in the balance now that he didn't get his wish to leave Indianapolis. As for the Colts, it's uncertain how their future will look once their superstar runner ends up elsewhere. No matter what unfolds in the coming months, there hasn't been any positive vibes about the Colts and Taylor's relationship improving. Fingers crossed that they can patch things up and move forward together. It's for the sake of the Colts franchise both now and down the road. So there you have it. That was all you need to know about the possibility of Jonathan Taylor playing with the Colts again.